Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, rather than featuring myself in a game, I'm going to be featuring two different players, Mathis Might versus Lixin Hong. Now, you might have seen these players in recent videos of mine. Mathis Might certainly is a staple, a very powerful 501 player, and Lixin Hong a strong contender as well for the 201 scene. Now, on round one, both players with pretty similar packs, kind of defensive packs, you could say. Sledgehammers and Void Eyes versus Sledgehammer and Marksman. A double chaff here will likely get added. We've got a Rhino Specialist for Mathis Might and a Giant Specialist for Lixin Hong. This is going to be important throughout the game, as he will make sure to get good value out of that. Double Fang pickup there for Lixin Hong. There's a couple things you can do here. This building layout is perfectly fine to defend with. You can opt to do something like this, although Lixin Hong is cycling through different options. You can try to stack on your empty side of the board, because the other side has a wall plus a building, which will make it a lot harder for someone to push in. It has a good stalling capabilities, and that offers, well, the opportunity to go for a more asymmetric setup if you want to. You can still play centrally as well, though, but you have to be a bit careful about this anti-armor cannon, especially when putting sledges in the middle, because it will definitely impact the way that rounds go and potentially take out a whole bunch of your units. And so what you see here, indeed, is both players do opt to go asymmetrically and kind of avoid that center, and also just abandon, right, the side of the board where they have a building plus wall and push into the other opponent's side. So somehow we've ended up with an asymmetrical position here, a crossfire if you will, but in a long range format. Double crawler for Mathis Might. That is definitely going to be better for him. You can see on that right side, that frontal fang, not a big fan of that. Long term it might be necessary to like stop, you know, insta-locks from happening or missiles from landing. But when you're pushing into a rapid fire cannon, you don't want to put a fang up front. It will simply get cleared. That's not worth it. You just lost like a full chaff pack for, you know, no good reason, really. Left side, Mathis Might does get in a bit quicker thanks to those crawlers, and with the debuff he can take out that anti-armor cannon. Right side though, kind of a similar story. Lixin Hong not too far behind, will grab a Tara debuff themselves, and then it just comes down to this fight in the middle. More chaff available for Mathis Might. Also has the Void Eyes, which are a lot harder to kill than the singular marksman, so he should be able to get ahead here. Although I say that, lots of the Void Eyes somehow ended up in front of the Sledgehammer, so the DPS is not fantastic. It actually takes a while to get through the remainder of Lixin Hong's army, but in the end, it will still be a Mathis Might win, if only marginal. Round number 2, immediately we see unit reinforcements, so the pace of the game definitely picking up. Phantom Ray, Mustang, Hound, and Wasp. Wasp always worth considering here. It's annoying to deal with, but there is a Mustang in the mix, which would be the kind of classic counter to that unit. The other units, though, not amazing. You could... I was gonna say you could pick Hound against the Fangs to kind of try and defend like your weak side, but I don't like it that much. I think picking either the Mustang or the Wasp here should be the go-to. Mathis Might willing to just pick up the Wasp. Where is that going to go? All the way in that bottom left. I guess he's making the read that even if Lixin Hong were to put a Mustang there, he's going to need to add a lot more to kind of stop his army from getting in, and the Wasps likely would be protected. Instead, we see the Phantom Ray pickup, which is also acceptable. I do think it kind of loses to both Wasp and Mustang, at least in an isolated scenario, but it does have pushing power, 60 meters a second, pretty decent DPS. And we see a Stormcaller pickup here on the right, by the way. Very nice. This is a lovely thing to do on these type of crossfire scenarios, especially if it's long-range ones. Put down a Stormcaller on your weak side, and it'll be able to stall for quite a while. Although I say that, those Phantoms are moving in quick, of course, and they will eventually get rid of the Storms. But already you can see a full Sledgehammer pack thereabouts has been lost for Lixin Hong. In the meantime, the left side push for Mathis Might is going wonderfully, and he's making ground as well into that second tower before even losing his first one. That one will go down now, and the Phantoms with their speed I was gonna say, are looking to go for the second tower, but they don't. Instead, they veer to the right into the middle of the board. And this should just be another Math's Might victory, as most of the Wasps are still alive. Now, moving forward, Math probably will need to get some more reliable anti-air, because he can't, you know, possibly think that those Wasps will always survive, and if he runs out of Wasps, well, then he can't kill the Phantoms. Round number 3, and we see item pickups for Lixinhong, the improved firepower, and buys a Vulcan because, well, he is a giant spec, so he can afford to do things like this. Math's Might, in the meantime, picks up the extended range Arclights card, which is very, very good card, and buys 3 Arclights. That does mean, as I mentioned, that he does not have the best of anti-air. So if this Wasp ends up perishing, for instance, to that late Fang that's been added, it would just result in a default win for Lixinhong. Sometimes that's alright, though, if you won the first 2 rounds and you're still on full health. You know, it's not a bad idea to just set up units you're going to need no matter what, like those Arclights. 2 of them on the right side, 1 of them on the left. I'm guessing that Math is happy with just the sledgehammers and their okay ability to chaff clear. Also, there isn't too much chaff clear on the left for the time being. Void Eyes have picked up the suppression shots, which will reduce the range of that Vulcan and actually allow them to DPS it down fairly quickly, but the Vulcan did what it needed to do. It ignited the oil from Lixinhong, and with all of these level 1 mid-sized units, I highly doubt that many of them will get to survive. Yeah, just look at that. All of them go down. The Wasps indeed get caught by those late Fangs, and with all of the Phantoms still on full HP, this will be a round for Lixinhong. Big round, though. The oil was expended. And as I mentioned, Math's Might did get some setup there with the suppression shots on the Void Eyes and allowing him to get into Arclights. Round number 5. Not the most significant of items here. Advanced power system available, but neither player wants it. Math's Might happy to just pick up that anti-interference module, which is an item that, honestly, I've been overlooking too much, in my opinion. It's quite powerful for how cheap it is, especially in these type of crossfire scenarios where oftentimes there will be a debuff. This item allows one of your units to be immune to it. And, well, on something like a Rhino, you know, it also prevents hacker lines or anything else, really, from affecting this particular unit. Now, I said Lixinhong was going to make use of his giant spec, and, well, you can already see that that's not a lie. Raiden picked up here as well. Powerful unit against Sledgehammers, Arclights, and Void Eyes. Kind of my main counter in most games when I'm facing this, so very sensible choice. In the meantime, though, Arclight range for Math's Might, and again, his anti-air is just this singular pack of Wasp, which he has leveled, so it should be able to beat that Fang reliably now. And as I say this, I quite liked the Raiden, to be honest, but for some reason Lixinhong decides to change his mind and pick up a Sandworm all the way in the back, another giant, so he does still, you know, make use of that free unlock, but Worm I don't like as much. It is also quite good into things like Sledgehammers and Arclights, of course, but the Raiden added that aerial threat, and Math's Might didn't have a lot of anti-air previously, so I think it was worth, you know, trying to perhaps kind of abuse that fact and test whether or not Math would get some solid anti-air. And yeah, look at that. Left side just not looking good for Lixinhong, losing pretty convincingly. The Rhino's still alive. It does get damaged a fair bit by that anti-armor cannon, but eventually tower will go down. I think the Rhino also, though, will punch, and yes, indeed it will, because it cannot get debuffed. Anti-armor cannon there, fighting back, will get punched as well by the Rhino, which doesn't go for that second tower. Luckily for Math, the Wasps will, but on the other side, the Phantoms also opting to take another tower. Debuff first for Lixinhong, gets traded by Math's Might, and it should be a fairly close round, but I imagine that these Phantoms will come out ahead against the 5 Wasps that are now remaining. So again, very, very close affair. I think Lixinhong there perhaps doubting himself a little bit too much, going back and forth between Raiden and Sandworm, and perhaps settling on the less optimal option. Round number 5, we do see unit reinforcements. No giants in there. Lots of air units, or units capable of shooting air. We've got Wraith, Farseer, and Phoenix, and it's going to be the Farseer pickup for both players here. I think Phoenix, honestly, would also have been quite logical. I guess Mathis Might was just looking to make some cash, so... well, as I say that, no, the Farseer is still on the board. I guess it is a very good counter to these high-level Phantoms, which right now are starting to become a little bit of a problem with 10k hit points apiece. I think the Phoenixes, though, would have been alright as well. You get more deployments. They've got good DPS against both the Vulcans and the Sandworms. But opts to go for that Farseer. More Arclights still being picked up. Wasp is being leveled. But there is a Farseer now, perhaps to greet it on its way in. Sledgehammers have been sold. Only the Void Eyes remain. They do have levels available. I think that would be worth picking up. Only 150 to double your DPS on those units. That is a big deal. And Stormcallers, by the way, were added last round, are being added again this round. So for a grand total of 4, not a bad line to go for, in my opinion, against these type of heavy Fang and giant-based boards. We see that Lixin Hong is unlocking giants whenever possible. Overlord there was unlocked, kind of blocking it from unit drops. And, well, also, you know, keeping it available for a potential later round if he desires to grab that. Yeah, that Farseer left side is not having a good time whatsoever for Lixin Hong. It instantly died. On the right side, it's doing a bit better for Mathis Might, and it does look like it'll get to shoot at these Phantoms, even managing to splash 2 of them occasionally. So the Phantoms are now gone. They were probably the biggest asset for Lixin Hong, and you have to imagine that will result in a round win for Math. Very powerful round. Immediately turns it and deals well over 1,000 damage here with all the Stormcaller still alive. So a fantastic turn for Mathis Might. And Lixin Hong, I mean, definitely on the back foot. Round number 6, Efficient Giant Manufacturing shows up. Doesn't take Lixin Hong too long to pick that up. Assault Scorpion, an interesting card. Mathis Might will pick it. It is one of my favorite cards to go for, in Standard especially, because it makes Siege Mode Scorpion that much better. And look at this. It is exactly what we're going to see. Triple Scorpion with Assault. The Assault card and Siege Mode enabled, even with the lack of that range, right? 30 range loss. They are still up to 170 with Siege Mode, and they have 4.5 seconds of reload speed instead of the usual 6 seconds that you get on normal Siege Mode Scorpions. But look at the other side. Mountain picked up for Lixin Hong with the extended range ammo. Yeah, I mean, this will definitely be able to contest these Siege Mode Scorpions, as it's sitting at a whopping 260 meters of range. It doesn't have the highest DPS, only 1600 attack per gun. But, you know, against the board of small units, that may just be enough. Right side is crushing. Left side is probably about even. I do think that this Mountain will be able to come out ahead. The Worm also now managing to survive. Debuff, though, will come through for Mathis Might, but there are very few units on the left side that are able to make use of it. The Worm is also underground as it's making its way to the tower. Will the tower go down again? Oh, that debuff timer is awful for Mathis Might. He will be able to trade the tower eventually, but loses the Farseer in the process. And look at this Worm, with the Wasp chasing it all the way, and these units completely confused. They can't see the Mountain sitting all the way in the distance. And even though the DPS on this thing is not fantastic, it will be able to clear out pretty much the entire board. In fact, it will, apart from those Wasps, for Lixin Hong. So, again, a super close round. I'm not even sure if this will go down. Looks like it might. It will, with 5 seconds left to spare. So, very good there for Mathis Might as he saves himself 500 hit points. Round number 7, Intensive Training shows up. Portable Shield as well, which is what Lixin Hong will pick up. Intensive could have been used on a Titan, although with that performance, 200,000 damage in one round. This mountain already was able to pick up a level, and Lixin Hong will pay the price for that. 400 resources to double its stats. Quite important to do this, in my opinion, with extended range mountain, because you really need to get as much attack as you can because of how nerfed it is after getting that bonus 160 range. Range Fang as well now being picked up. The Port Shield goes onto that Worm, which does not have a level available. Vulcan, though, has one and will get one. And now Mathis Might opts to go for the Abyss. Certainly the best option whenever your opponent goes for extended range ammo. They can't really click AA as well, as it will further decrease their attack by another 40%. And at that point, you know, you're dealing peanuts worth of damage. So yeah, if you see this, try to pivot into Abyss would be my recommendation. And Mathis Might, well, he very much knows this as the strong player that he is. And now, I mean, there are some marksmen on the board on that right side for Lixin Hong, but the right side has been getting crushed repeatedly, so you have to wonder if those will stay alive. The mountain gets a second tech here with the mountain plating being picked up. So not only does it have 260 range, it will also block 1400 damage for any instance of damage that it receives, which means that most of these units will struggle to, you know, do anything to it. The Void Eyes do 2.1k, so, you know, they about 60-70% of their attack gets negated, and it's really going to come down to this Abyss. Right side crushing as expected, so the marksmen are falling. Those are a lot of fangs, though, on the left, but this is a beefy Air Titan, so I would be surprised if it ends up going down to that. Also, the tower, of course, on the right side will fall. The Worm, though, is on the tower. Nothing there for Mathis Might to stop it. And will it take it? It won't. The tower living there on a sliver of hit points, but it does prevent the debuff from coming through, and instead it's Mathis Might punching back, getting the debuff, allowing the Abyss to inch closer. It still takes a while, though, to get through this thing. I mean, it is blocking, right, a significant amount of damage from the level 1 Abyss here as well. So in the end, all ground units get cleaned up before that Abyss, or before the mountain falls. It will even, out of spite, take a tower. And again, this round took so long to finish. Round number 8, more unit reinforcements show up. We've got Steel Balls, Melting Point, Typhoon, and Phoenix. I mean, at this point, I don't think either player really needs much of anything. The Melting Point could be picked up, but honestly, Melting Point does not do great into extended range mountain just because of how much range difference there is. So I feel like either you pick Steel Ball and try to go, you know, push that right side, maybe go Mech Div Ball and, you know, create more chaff. Or what's more likely is you just pick something and sell it. We're going to see Phoenixes come out for Mathis Might. Keep in mind, like, these guys don't do that much damage to the mountain either, right? Only 3,000 a pop, so close to half of that damage will get blocked. Make it even more than that, because we have got a level 3 mountain. So now it's blocking 2,100 damage per shot. Melter, though, will get picked up by Lixin Hong, and yeah, I was saying he's massing giants. He really is. 1, 2, 3 different ones. Well, I guess 3 giants and 1 titan, if we want to be accurate. And I was a bit surprised about this. The Phoenixes plus range, I feel like just selling and going deeper into Abyss might have been a better move. I'm just a bit concerned that these level 1 Phoenixes are not going to have the damage to take down, you know, these mountains. A second one has appeared, but let's see. Fire, by the way, has been picked up here for Mathis Might as well, as he tries to kill those late fangs. It will certainly help him get closer to these units. Needs to get rid of that melting point, and then he should be completely fine. Again, the anti-air, not great for Lixin Hong, but oh my god, look at that. The Abyss, with the lack of range, gets in front of every other unit, and while the Melter after that gets completely blasted, it's done its job. It's gotten rid of the tankiest unit on the board. And more important than that, the unit that would be able to contest this mountain. Now, the Phoenixes here, they do deal damage to this level 3 mountain, but it is not a lot. And that thing is almost 500,000 hit points, so it takes a while to get through everything. EMP, by the way, on the Arclights does get rid of those techs, but sadly it should get outranged and should go down as a result. So now Mathismite's board is just going to be very busy trying to kill the sandworm and then do its very best damaging this mountain. But with 20 seconds left on the clock, that's not going anywhere, and it will be another tie. These rounds have been going the distance for sure. I don't know if EMP is available here for Mathismite. It doesn't have it on Phoenixes, so that's not going to be an option. I feel like it just has to be multiple abysses. Take the level if you can, and yeah, try and make sure it survives, right? Range on the abyss could help. Orbital bombardment here shows up. At this point in the game, you kind of can't afford to skip these type of spells. They're so cheap, and their impact is massive, right? Like clearing chaff, which is usually what this spell and storm will do, is super important. Allows you to get connections much faster on the important units on the enemy board, so there's no reason not to go for that. Abyss does get leveled for Mathismite, and yet another giant is picked up for Lixin Hong, who goes for Fortress with the anti-air tech to try and get rid of those Phoenixes. Although he undoes, so perhaps not. We'll have to see. There's been a couple of these moments where Lixin Hong has been unsure about the play. Looks like maybe it'll just be yet another mountain. But yeah, one of the tricky things, I guess, when you're playing mountain is having anti-air stay alive. Because it's got so much range with this tech that anything will go in front of it and basically act as chaff, including your anti-air, right? And you can't afford to click that AA, as I mentioned, because you're just nerfing your attack way too much. Acid here picked up as well for Mathismite, which will work together with the fire to create a nasty cocktail for these crawlers and fangs to run through. But will the acid connect? That is another question, right? Like, these mountains are sitting very far back. Right side looks like that may be the case. I think that acid did end up hitting in the end. Yeah, there we go. EMP also being applied thanks to those Arclights. And the Abyss is still alive. It doesn't have the range tech, but the melting point is awfully sad in the middle of the board. This looks like it should be a very successful round for Mathismite. Although the worm, this time around, we've seen that situation before, manages to get a debuff, and thanks to that, this left side mountain is just going to clear the ground yet again. So even though it's a win for Mathismite, there's not enough material on the board for Mathismite to finish this game. So round 10, here we come. Absolutely crazy, crazy game. Like, just about every single unit, that feels like, has been purchased at some point in this game, even if undone. Another efficient giant manufacturing shows up. Lightning Storm, though, pops up too. I just talked about it. I think that you should pick that up, especially this late into the game. Lixin Hong will go for it. I imagine Mathismite should pick it up too. Decides to skip there. I guess his assessment is that he doesn't have any problems chaff clearing. There isn't that much chaff on the enemy board, and I guess, you know, the Storm is only really good against smaller targets. So while Lixin Hong can, you know, hit Arclights and hit Void Eyes and Stormcallers plus chaff, Mathismite really can only hit the chaff. An Abyss gets picked up for Lixin Hong as well, and he decides to go for range immediately to try and duel this Abyss on the other side. Make that 2 Abysses now, as he's somehow managed to get 5 Titans on the board already, with multiple techs clicked on either. Temporary range, very important. What is Mathismite going to do? 100 resources left in the bank. Buys a second Abyss. Can loan for that range. But will he do so? Doesn't look like it. Just opts to go for another Fang. Could still loan for range. No, he can't, actually, because it costs 500 on Titans. So it's got to be tower levels, and now this matchup might just end up turning for Lixin Hong. I mean, Mathismite is healthy, but if all of these Titans survive, that would be 2500 damage. taken. Storm left side, not doing that much, honestly. I mean, eventually the shield will break, and a couple Storm Callers will suffer as a result, but not the biggest storm that I've ever seen. Left side Worm, by the way, is level 3. Make that level 6 in terms of hit points because of the item. And it looks to, again, just make a beeline for that tower. Right side has not gone well. Both Abysses alive, and I just mentioned that 5 Titans remaining alive would be 2,500 damage. If this Worm survives as well, that goes up to 2,850. And all of a sudden, we have a game where both players are sitting around 150 hit points. Yeah, I mean, that turned around on a dime. Math is might here, in trouble. Raiden shows up in the unit drop. I think that's about the only thing that's really usable for either player if they want to, or it's what you would sell if you need some quick cash. Other units just not really sellable. You get 3 of them, and honestly, like, it seems like both players have plenty of chaff clear and or ground-based DPS, so there's no point in picking these. But yeah, Math needs to address the problems here, because that range Abyss turn ruined him. He is going to go for the Raiden, and he sold his level 1 Abyss that he picked up last round. So it seems like he will try and make use of this. Does run Ionization, so maybe we'll see that being clicked. We do. Ionization now, picked up on that level 3 Raiden. And 3 more Raidens also purchased for Math is Might, for a grand total of 4, all aiming at that right side of the board. I mean, if they manage to connect, those could be some very juicy hits on those ultra tanky Titans from Lixenhong. Range also picked up on the Stormcallers, trying to keep them a bit safer, trying to make sure they land the fire for that little bit longer. Left side Mountain, by the way, is now level 4. So yeah, it blocks 2,800 damage a pop. Although I think it does not block anything about Ionization, because Ionization isn't counted as damage. So it actually is like the best probably counter to this particular tech. Completely ignores it. Oh, and look at that. Some of the Raidens are already managing to get some lock-ons there. One Abyss has gone down. Just look at those hit points disappearing on the right side. I mean, this might have just been a genius move from Math is Might, utilizing that unit drop very well. A couple of Abysses still left, though, and all of a sudden, the Raiden seem to have gone down to the Abyss. If this final Raiden goes down, then there might be some trouble. Debuff gets traded. Again, the Worm comes in on that left side. This Ionize, Raiden did its very best, but doesn't have the attack to try and finish off the Abyss. The Worm pulls all of Math is Might's units to that right side. It will eventually go down, but as a result, his tower falls. The Abyss survives, and now it's a 1v1 between this Abyss and that Mountain from Lixenhong. But with 9 seconds on the clock, make that 5 seconds on the clock, we are actually going to get a draw on round 11 between these 2 Titans. And because of it, it doesn't show here, but Math is Might actually won that game. And the reason he won it is because in Mechabellum, if you get a tie like this, with both players having negative hit points, it's the player that has the least negative hit points that takes the victory. In this case, Math is Might, who was only ahead by 19 hit points this game. After all this craziness, this many giants, this many Titans being purchased, and 11 rounds in, it ends in, well, it's not exactly a draw, which can happen, I think, but it's Math is Might winning by 19 hit points of negative hit point difference. Quite crazy, I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this game. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down below what you thought of it. Have you ever had this happen to you? It has happened to me before, but it's not a regular occasion, I can tell you that. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.